Welcome to Trust Issues, only the kind that make you richer.
Welcome back to Trust Issues, only the kind that make you richer. I'm your host, Ruma Mazumdar, and today's episode is personal. We're stepping away from the legal deep dives to talk about something that's been foundational to everything I've built. How I started my law firm, Key Esquire, from scratch, with no investors, no business plan, and no formal guidance. Just a quiet decision to try something different and the willingness to keep going when I didn't know exactly how. People see Key Esquire now and often assume it's always structured, intentional, confident. But the beginning was really messy. It was emotional and it required more personal growth than I could have anticipated. So this is for anyone who's in the early stages of building something or rebuilding something. You're not behind and you're not alone. So I didn't announce that I was starting a firm with some big, bold moment. In fact, it started out quietly, almost like a test I didn't know I was taking. In May of 2021, I started working on residential closings under the letterhead and structure of another attorney. I wanted to see if I even liked the niche, and I'm so grateful for that attorney, who's now a really close mentor, who gave me the space to experiment without pressure. Turns out I really love this stuff, and I liked helping clients navigate something big and emotional and important. I liked being in their corner during what was often the biggest transaction of their lives. And so by July of 2021, I was ready. I gave notice to my corporate job, I wrapped up my role professionally, and then I filed paperwork to open my business officially that August. All of this was happening while I was planning a wedding. I spent the rest of 2021 building slowly. I hired a web designer, developed my brand, and made sure my online presence reflected the kind of clients I wanted to attract, people looking for someone who felt relatable, clear, and trustworthy. And then by December 2021, Key Esquire was officially live. That's when I made the big announcement. I left a six-figure salary, and I told myself, if I can replace that income in year one, I'll know I made the right choice. And somehow the first quarter of 2022 definitely exceeded all expectations. Closings came in consistently. I had systems, kind of. I had clients. I had traction. But I also knew this wasn't sustainable alone. So I had to hire my first team member. And that was really tough to kind of transition my mind of what felt like a big expense when I wasn't really sure where the business was going, even though I had that traction and all signs pointed to things would be okay. Nonetheless, I worked with a staffing agency, which made the process seamless, and I found a paralegal who joined me a week later, and everything just clicked. So I was really lucky there. I felt like I was finally on the right track. But what came next was that every step wasn't going to be this easy. The practice continued to grow and get busier. We were doing okay, just the two of us, but the phone lines were getting out of hand. So I finally got an assistant and stopped using my cell phone to run my business. Once the admin was kind of set, we felt some ease, but there was still a lot of work going on, and I was juggling the roles of being an attorney, the CEO, IT, HR, marketing, and more. So I knew I needed to get more hands to help with the work. We decided to hire a part-time paralegal. I'd gone through all the right steps. Posting the job, doing the interviews, checking references. This time I didn't use a staffing agency because I wanted to try and find someone local myself. But I ended up back at square one after months of trying because the person that I hired and was so excited about quit on day one. That taught me a couple of things. That part-time commitment definitely wouldn't work for me. And so we switched gears to posting for a full-time paralegal and really betting on myself and the business that we could sustain this third person, or this fourth person, actually. Then someone in the industry referred a promising assistant. So I was like, this is a sign from the universe, go for it. And I went back and looked at the resumes I'd gotten for my initial posting and saw that they had actually applied. So I decided to give it a chance. Maybe I shouldn't have because I didn't pull their resume for the first round. So that was another lesson that I learned. They started out strong, but very quickly I realized they had overstated their experience. Their work wasn't up to par. They didn't fit our culture and pace. So just because someone made a recommendation doesn't mean that they're going to fit. I really should have vetted more. And eventually this person quit because they knew they just weren't a fit. I kept trying, posting, interviewing, checking references, but I was still hiring people who just weren't aligned with the culture that I was building. Eventually, I brought on someone with a strong resume, tons of experience. On paper, they were perfect, but in practice, they got too comfortable. They overstepped on boundaries, they offered legal advice when they shouldn't, and they just stopped communicating midday when frustrated and literally disappeared. And that's hard on a really small team because we're all counting on each other to get the work done. So when someone just goes MIA, that work falls right back on me and the remaining employees. Letting them go was so emotionally exhausting. It was the first time I had to fire someone. I was worried about whether I handled it right. Did I lock them out of my systems correctly? I was stressed about unemployment claims. I was second guessing everything. But I also knew I had to protect the vision. Even high performers don't get to stay and poison the culture. Skills aren't enough. Culture and alignment matter just as much. So that entire year was a crash course in how to hire, fire, and recalibrate. But now we've built stronger systems. We have clear job descriptions, we've customized our assessments, we have multi-phase interviews, and we are using AI tools to our advantage to compare all the candidates objectively as opposed to subjectively and how we might feel about them. None of this came easy, but it was definitely earned. So in recap, year one was equal parts momentum and chaos. I was operating without systems, without structure, without a clear chain of command. I was reacting to everything. I was celebrating wins one day and then I was spiraling the next day. There were moments I'm not proud of too, like the times that I yelled at my clients out of sheer exhaustion, the times that I hung up the phone because I couldn't regulate my own emotions. I was raw, reactive, and trying to do too much without enough support. And there's no school that teaches you how to run a law firm. You can have mentors, you can take the courses, but when it's your business, your clients, your name on the line, you're the one making every call. And I was just trying to survive while looking like I had it together. There was so much internal pressure to be taken seriously. I looked young. I was the new kid on the block. I was a woman building a practice in a space that was dominated by a lot of outdated old school energy. I felt like every client, every attorney, every email exchange was a test. One slip and they'd confirm whatever story they already had about me. So I overcompensated. I felt like I had to know everything. I had to be better, faster, more professional, more polished. I was reading between the lines in every message, trying to anticipate any objection, wanting to outlawyer anyone who questioned me. And that was so exhausting. Even like rehashing it right now, I'm exhausted. It made me reactive and defensive, sometimes even confrontational in a way that didn't serve the client or me. But what helped shift out of that cycle wasn't confidence, it was clarity. Clarity that I didn't have to prove anything. I just had to stay in integrity. So I started with some mindset check-ins. Am I showing up to prove something or to be of service? Is this reaction coming from fear or from leadership? If I trusted that my work speaks for itself, what would I say or do differently right now? I also stopped spiraling every time something went wrong. I created a simple rule. Feel it, name it, then find the learning. I'd literally write down what's the actual problem here? What's the story I'm making up about it? What's the next decision I need to make from a place of leadership, not panic? It seems small, but having these mental guardrails kept me grounded when I wanted to shut down or lash out or just burn the whole thing down. One of the biggest breakthroughs for me was the idea I now live by. You don't need to earn respect through perfection. You build trust through consistency. That changed how I responded to challenges. It helped me breathe through hard conversations, delays, complaints, missteps, one-star reviews, which I only have 2 of, with no actual words written on the Google review. So it happens. I started to see leadership as being calm in the chaos, not trying to control it. Control the controllables. And eventually I realized that the people who respect you the most are rarely the ones you feel like you have to convince. The ones who don't believe in you, you'll never say the right thing to change their minds. So don't. Let your results talk. Let your reputation grow quietly. Let your name be in the rooms you don't even know about yet for the right reasons. That mindset allowed me to stop defending myself and start directing my business. It helped me move from reaction to intention, from fear to discernment, from proving to leading. And that really changed everything for me, even though we're now about 4 years in. Now, in the first year, around the 8-month mark, I had a moment of real honesty with myself, lots of clarity. I had done what I had set out to do. The clients were coming in, the work was flowing, revenue was growing, my team was growing, but I felt like I was running into the same wall over and over again. Every win felt reactive, every problem felt bigger than it should, and I was still the bottleneck for everything. That's when I realized I'd taken the firm as far as I could on my own. I didn't want to keep winging it. I didn't want to burn out just trying to prove that I could do it all. And I wanted to build something sustainable. So I hired a business coach, and that decision shifted everything. It wasn't about being told what to do, it was finally about having a space to think like a CEO instead of reacting like a technician. We started creating real systems. We looked at the numbers that I was afraid to face. We talked about boundaries and leadership, hiring, marketing, actual structure. For the first time, I had someone in my corner, not just cheering me on, but challenging me to level up, not emotionally babysitting me, but showing me how to separate the noise from the real priorities. It also gave me permission to not have all the answers, to not pretend, to say, I don't know what I'm doing here, and I'm not really sure, and not feel like a failure for saying that. Looking back, that investment in support didn't just help grow my business, it helped me grow. It gave me space to lead, to delegate, to see myself as more than just someone doing the work, but as someone building something bigger than myself. These days, I operate from a very different place. I no longer think I need to know everything to lead well. I don't measure my worth by how many tasks I complete or how perfectly I perform. I focus more on alignment. Does this decision reflect the kind of CEO I want to be? Does this support the life I'm building, the culture I want my team to feel every day? I lead from values now, not urgency. That means I'm intentional about our client experience. I don't say yes to every opportunity. I say yes to the right ones. I delegate more, but with structure. I coach my team. I check in on the culture. I look at our numbers and make decisions from data, not panic. And most importantly, I trust myself, even when things feel uncertain, even when I make mistakes, because I make them often. And when the path still feels blurry all the time, because the foundation is strong and I've built it one decision at a time. So if you're listening and you're somewhat in the messy middle of building something, whether it's a business, a career, or just a new version of yourself, I hope this episode reminds you you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to keep showing up with clarity, with integrity, and with the willingness to evolve. Growth isn't linear, success isn't clean, and leadership, it's built in the small moments when no one's watching. And you decide to keep going anyway. So thanks for listening to Trust Issues. If this one resonated, share it with someone else who's building without a blueprint. And I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.